Welcome to the Microsoft 365 Development Biweekly Call. My name is Julie Turner. I'm with Sympraxis Consulting, and I will be your host today. My first time hosting a call, so everyone be nice. Agenda for today. So we're going to do the same things we normally do. We have the latest on the PnP Framework and the Core SDK extension, PowerShell, latest on Teams, the Microsoft Graph Toolkit, Teams samples, and some other things that we'll talk about. We'll also have time for picture time with Together Mode. And then we have 3 demos. And as I was saying earlier, I'm happy to say that I can pronounce everyone's name. We have April Dunham. Is going to do some Power Platform tips and tricks. We have David Warner, who's going to do some list formatting in Enhanced Web Part, and the lovely Chris Kent, who's going to do some list formatting magic. All our favorite people are presenting today. So there's always opportunities to join in the PnP community and contribute. You obviously can demo or show a technical pattern on one of our many calls, and to do that, you just need to reach out to one of the team members and let them know that you have a demo that you'd like to share, and we can get you scheduled into one of the calls. If you're a little nervous about that, if you've never presented before, we also have the Sharing is Caring initiative that David's going to talk about in a little bit, has an initiative to help you get some tips and tricks on presenting and can help you through that as a first-time presenter. You can also contribute to GitHub. So there's all of our solutions, samples, guidance, libraries are all available on GitHub, and they're all open to contribution. And again, the Sharing is Caring initiative is there to help you get started with that if you've never contributed to GitHub or you're new to GitHub. I'd also point out that we also have non-technical, non-developer repositories to contribute to, like the Microsoft 365 Community Docs and the M365 Maturity Model. Those are both more business-facing and documentation-facing repos that you can also contribute to. So there's something for everyone. And if you're interested in contributing, you should get started on that. And also, last but not least, you can provide feedback. So we love to have feedback. Positive feedback is wonderful. Constructive, negative feedback is also okay. But it is a community where inclusivity is one of our hallmarks. And so any rude or demeaning behavior is certainly not accepted, but anything constructive we'd love to hear about. So this is the Slido links, as Patrick Rogers likes to call this. So we have a lot of content available to you. We have the Microsoft 365 developer videos, where you can go to see videos, the recordings of these calls, different examples, and learnings that you can consume through video, if that's one of the ways you like to consume content. We also have so that's the developer videos. We also have the community videos where all the community recordings are. We have all our open source repos, like I mentioned before. The SharePoint, PnP Office Dev, my personal one, PnP JS, which I co-maintain with Patrick Rogers. All of those are open source, and anyone is welcome to contribute. We have lots of sample galleries, and that seems to be ever expanding, which is really excellent. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we have sample galleries. And then the sort of one link to rule them all, the aka.ms m365pnp/m365pnp. That link takes you to our landing page that gives you links to everything else. So you don't have to remember them all, just remember that one, and it will get you to all the other ones. And believe me, that's the one I use because I can't remember the URLs to anything. So we have some changes coming up to our meeting structures. We realized that we were getting quite a few meetings on the calendars. And so we've sort of decided to try to consolidate a little bit. And so over the summer, we're just doing a limited number of calls. And then when we pick back up at the end of August, we'll be sort of merging our calls into one. All of the meetings are already scheduled. And so if you go to that aka .ms link that I shared before, you can get all the meeting invites, get them into your calendar, and be ready to ramp up when fall comes. So let's talk about the Microsoft 365 Extensibility Lookbook. This is a gallery of extensibility samples. So to help you understand or imagine the ways in which the Microsoft 365 platform can be extended, there's this lookbook, and you can go there and review all those samples and get tips and tricks on how to get started and what the art of the possible is with the platform. So I definitely encourage you to go check that out and see what is available. And then so we also have the Getting Started with Microsoft Teams development samples. That sample gallery has a lot of team samples in it. And so you want to go check those out if you're interested in Microsoft Teams development. And I think we have Paul for this slide.
Hey there. So PnP Script Samples is a site for sharing scripts that we use to automate your tasks in 365. So this includes scripts for the CLI for Microsoft 365, PnP PowerShell, and SPA management tools. I'd like to thank you for those that have contributed so far to the initiative. Absolutely awesome. I really appreciate your contributions. We introduced a couple of new features recently. When you're viewing an article with the script in it, you have the ability to copy that script to a clipboard so you can paste it into your favorite authoring tool. The second one is if you're viewing a script and you're not entirely sure what the commandlet does, you can click on the commandlet and it will take you to the documentation site for that tool. So for example, if you're clicking on a CLI command, it will navigate over to the CLI documentation site so you can find out a bit more detail about it. And for that, I cover the CLI 365, PnP PowerShell, and the SPA management commandlets for that feature. If you'd like to contribute to the tool, you can use the guidance on the site or test the guidance on the site, or you can feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you in your contribution, paste this into the issues list, ping on chat, whatever. I'm happy to speak to you. Back to you, Julie.
Thank you very much. So that's awesome. Lots of great new samples in that PowerShell area. That's a great place. Let's move forward. And now we have the sharing is caring. And David, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, thanks, Julie. As Julie had mentioned, there are a whole host of initiatives that we have in the Patterns and Practices community for you to contribute to, resources for you to use, and we understand that sometimes there are some hurdles in doing that, whether it just be using things like the SPFX samples or contributing, presenting, getting involved with the maturity model practitioners. A number of opportunities are available, but we want to help you if there are hurdles. So the Sharing is Caring is going to provide hands-on sessions for you to learn how to do a variety of these things, such as your first contribution to GitHub, community docs, a whole host of things. We've been having AMAs, which have been very popular, so they're going to continue and increase. In fact, our next scheduled one is on the Power Platform in September, and we're also going to set up a recognition program AMA, because I know there's some questions around that, which we'll talk about in a moment. So again, they're free, hands-on. We're going to walk you through how to accomplish all these things. We do not record them, so they're safe space, inclusive opportunities for you to come, ask questions, collaborate with others in the community, meet others in the community, and get more involved. aka.ms/sharing is caring. Now, once you do contribute, what do you get? Well, you get our thank you, and you can also be part of the recognition program. So if you move to the next slide, there is a new recognition program powered by Credly. This is the same Credly that powers the Microsoft certification program. So when you receive these badges, and we've seen some in the last few days getting theirs, there's going to be more coming out in the next few days for those that have registered. They are going to sit right alongside your certification badges on the Credly program. Super exciting. We're going to have more campaigns and achievement levels coming soon. As I mentioned, we will likely do a AMA on that to answer some of the questions around it, because I know some have been reaching out with curiosity questions, and we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity. You do need to opt in, though. Please go to aka.ms/M365 PnP-recognition. We need to tie your information over to the Credly system, and we need to get that by way of you registering for the program. So please do that. We'd love to celebrate all the awesome work that you all do, and this is just the beginning. So thank you very much. And Julie, back to you.
Thank you very much. That Sharing is Caring initiative is pretty much one of the best things we've done as a team. It really helps people get involved, and I love that program exists, and it's just a wonderful way to get started. So if you're new to any of this and just really need a safe place to get started, absolutely join in on some of those initiatives. So now we're going to talk about PnP .NET Libraries. Paulo is chiming in from vacation, maybe, to read to this? Yes?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Julie. So yes, talking about the PnP .NET Libraries, we have just few news because we have been on vacation time, like almost everybody else. But still, PnP Framework, we released version 1.6. We updated CSOM and managed some fixes and improvements. So thank you to Erwin, Luis Manes, Christian Zwelling, and Michael Martinez. We are also working on implementing the actual support for schema for the provisioning schema version 2021-03, meaning that in PnP Framework, we already have full support for serializing and deserializing the schema, but we still need to complete the actual implementation of the new functionalities in the provisioning engine. And we are really looking forward for having support from the whole community. So if you have spare time during the summertime, please give it to us and help us creating the actual implementation of the provisioning engine with this latest release of the schema. And we plan to release version 1.7 in late summer. So it would be really great to have also the whole implementation of the new schema in there. Talking about the PnP Core SDK, well, I have to say that we are really happy because we crossed the 200,000 downloads, which is a huge achievement considering that the library is quite new, and we also released version 1.3.0. And again, we managed some fixes and some improvements, and we are also working, and we have been working in the last few months to a new project called PnP Transformation Framework, which will come out hopefully early September under preview. So be prepared and ready to play with it, to give us your feedback and to contribute to it if you like, because it will be a powerful framework to transform content from external systems to the modern UI of SharePoint Online. And that's it about the PnP libraries.
Wow, that's wicked cool. Are you going to speak to PnP PowerShell as well?
Yes, we're not here today, so just to update you about the fact that we also released a new version of PnP PowerShell, version 1.7, and in there we mainly included a fix for quite a nasty bug related to a conflict with an old version of CSOM, and that's why we updated CSOM as we did for PnP Framework, and Erwin fixed the get PnP tenant site commandlet. And then now we are almost back to vacation, so we will see each other again at near the end of August. So
Wonderful. And then last but not least, and then go back to vacation, Yo Teams.
Yeah, okay, so now I can go back to my vacation time. Yes, about your teams, nothing really new because also Victor is on vacation. So we simply want to remind you that there is the new version 3.2.0. In that one, there are some cool new capabilities, like, for example, support for GitHub code spaces. So give it an eye if you haven't done yet, and let us know what you think, and be prepared for version 3.3, which will come out most likely right after the summer break. And that's all for me. Thank you, Julie.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paulo, for joining us today. Really appreciate you going over those three initiatives. Next up, we have the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Do we have maybe Beth from here?
Yes.
Awesome. Wonderful. There we go.
Good morning or afternoon or good day to everyone. For Microsoft Graph Toolkit, ever since the build announcement of that we are trying to align with the Fluent UI web components that was also announced at Microsoft Build, our team has been working really hard to align all the components that we have with the Fluent UI web components. That includes identifying and aligning all the subcomponents, trying to prototype to make sure all the functioning parts between two web component frameworks are aligned properly, and then giving feedback to the Fluent UI team to make sure that we have everything that we need and they have everything that they need. So this is taking a lot of our time and effort from the team, and we're a very small team for those of you that know us. So we really need people to help us fix bugs and improve our features. If you want new things that's coming to the existing V2 point blah. So make sure that you go to aka.ms/mgt and find the help wanted and good first issue text. We are really right now relying on our community to help us improve our current version, like I said, so please help us. And then we also have a couple things that is in preview that's preparing for the new release 2.3 later this month. Part of it is a uploading file functionality for MGT file list. This is contributed by our community member, Andre. And we also have a new Teams SSO provider that's going to help you with the single sign-on portion of using Microsoft Graph Toolkit within Teams application. That is contributed by Simon, also our MVP. And then, so if you have any feedbacks or discussions, there's the issue number listed on the bottom of the screen. Make sure that you go check it out. A little last piece, I guess, for those of you who doesn't know Microsoft Graph Toolkit, it's a reusable web components and authentication providers to help you work with Microsoft Graph. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us today, Beth. Okay, next up we have the Microsoft Teams samples. My very good friend Bob German.
Hi, yeah, and I'm turning on my camera so that I can say that I don't have anything to say, but Parker is sad. You know, there were no new team samples submitted since the last meeting. But so your sample could be here. If you're doing anything with Teams or thinking about doing something with Teams, please reach out to me if you need some help. But I'd love to see some more samples come in. I guess a little bit of foreshadowing is that Teams Engineering has worked up a wish list of samples. So those will be posted in the issues to the Teams sample repository, and I'm trying to get them into one of these calls to actually explain some of the ideas and outline the program. But in general, we need more samples, and if you're looking to start a Teams project, please check out, we have a ton of samples actually that can help you get started. So aka.ms/teams-samples. I need to try calling it like /TS or something, maybe just /T.
Then they'll think it's TypeScript.
In keeping, oh, you're right. But just in keeping with the graph people's inspiration with their really short AKA links. Anyway, that's it. So thank you.
Thanks, Bob. April, I see you are right there. So Power Platform samples.
Yeah, so just first want to make everyone aware that we do have a Power Platform samples repo. It is still pretty new-ish, so if you go to aka.ms/powerplatform-samples, we don't have a short URL for that. It's kind of hard to shorten Power Platform. But we welcome all your samples for Power Apps templates, components for Power Apps, custom connectors, functions, flow templates, Power BI, virtual agents. And if we move to the next slide, I did want to highlight a couple of the new submissions that we have here. I see my name on there. So I had a SharePoint collect feedback workflow sample. So this is kind of replicating the old school collect feedback workflow in SharePoint inside of Power Automate. Shows how we can execute a flow within SharePoint with input parameters and use some custom responses in Power Automate. We also have a great sample by Scott McKenzie on getting Graph API data using Power BI reports in there. And then also one more by Fabio Franzini. It's a Fluent UI custom theme for Power Apps. So we have Fluent UI custom themes in Dataverse for Teams applications, but not our out-of-the-box Canvas apps yet. So Fabio has this great theme where we can bring that Fluent UI look and feel into our Power Apps Canvas apps. So
Awesome.
Thanks everyone for the samples.
Those are great. That's wonderful. All right, so now let's see if we can technically get our act together and do picture time. What do we think? David, solve for me. Is this good? Is this bad?
I think it looks okay. So let's give everybody an opportunity.
Do we have everyone? Okay.
All right, last chance. Everybody do some waving. All right, full house today. Awesome. Y'all look fantastic. All right, we're good.
Okay. Awesome. Whew. Moving that over. Putting this back on. All right. Wonderful. Optional picture time is done. And guess what? Next, the demos. So we're going to start with April, and I saw her, so I know she's here. So I will stop sharing. April, you can go ahead and take over. Power Platform tips and tricks.
Yes, so I wasn't sure if this new functionality would be ready yet, so I just put the generic tips and tricks, but thankfully it is working, so I'm really excited to show it. All right, so there's some new functionality where we can have our Power Apps applications as Teams meeting apps that I wanted to walk through. First, I wanted to kind of briefly set the stage here of what we can do right now today already before all of this with integrating our Power Apps and Teams. So we have this nifty Add to Teams button in our Canvas apps, and we can click that. That'll actually go and open up Teams for us, and we can easily add a Power App Canvas app this way into Teams as a tab. So you see we kind of have two options for add to a team or even add to a chat. So we can search for the team we want to add it to, find the channel there, and that will actually go and just set up the tab. So it's really simple integration out of the box that we have now. And of course, in addition to this whole functionality of being able to add it as a tab, which we've had for quite a while now, we also have the ability that we've had for a while as well to be able to take these Power Apps that we build and add them as tenant-wide applications in the app catalog here in the App Store and Teams. So you see a conference schedule app that I have there that I've deployed this way, and it shows in the left rail. This is just a Power Apps Canvas app that I've been able to surface up here in Teams. So we've had this type of integrative capability for a while, in addition to Dataverse for Teams, which is the even more tightly integrated Power Apps within Teams with the fluent UI feel and all of that. But what's new is meeting tabs is one way. So this has been here for a couple months now. So we've been able to add tabs into our meetings here in addition to the chat, the details and the files, and we can actually embed in the meeting tab a Power App here. So this is good if you want to do some collaboration in a Power App that you built before a meeting. But the thing that I want to show today is what if we want to do some work in collaboration with an app during a meeting? So that's possible with some functionality called Main Stage. This allows our app content from a meeting side panel, which we're seeing here. We're actually able to siloed in on the side panel a Power App here, and then we can take that and we can basically present that to the screen, kind of like we do a PowerPoint presentation now, and attendees now can then see that and interact with that application real time in the meeting. So this is pretty cool functionality. I want to show a simple use case of how we could get this set up. First thing I want to share about this main stage, though, is this is right now still in developer preview. So you will need to go into your Teams client settings and enable that developer preview if you want to try this out today for this to show up. So let's take a look first at a Power App that I have. So my use case here is this timesheet application. Maybe we have weekly status meetings where we go through and look at everyone's time in group meetings. Wouldn't it be cool if we could just collaborate in that app? So if I look at that timesheet app, I click those three dots again, and we do add to Teams. What we're going to do there in the Add to Teams there, instead of choosing the button that we looked at earlier where we selected Add to Teams, we're going to go and choose this different option here where it says Download App. And some things I wanted to point out quickly. You'll notice too in the advanced settings when we do the Add to Teams, if you are wanting to deploy this into Teams, we can put in some additional information just like we can in our normal Teams app, like the developer and your website, terms of use, privacy policy there, and even your partner ID. So if you're wanting to put this in the App Store there, you can associate that with your partner ID. So make sure that you fill some of that information in there if you'd like when you're adding this to Teams. But we want to choose the option below for download the app instead of add to Teams, because this functionality is new and it's not baked into the native add to Teams functionality yet. So we need to make a few tweaks here to the manifest file to be able to add this application in as a main stage type application. So I just extracted this. We're going to open it up with Visual Studio Code. Right, and I'm going to use my favorite extension here to beautify the JSON since it's all in one line so that I can see it a little bit better. Now, what we want to do here, that we just need to make a very small change to this manifest file, which is just a big JSON file. And we're going to go here to the configurable tabs section. And below, we'll see the scopes, and then we'll see context. So you want to make sure in the scope, first of all, that we have team and group chat. And in the context right now, you see that what this means is where can we use this Power App? Well, we can use it in the meeting details tab, in the meeting chat tab, private chat, and channel. But if we want to use it in the other scope there, then we need to, whoops, sorry, just a second. My slides went crazy. 1 minute here. But if we want to do that, we need to, let me just switch over here. Actually, this will be easier because I have this open. We need to add these two options here. We need to add meeting side panel. That's what allows us to load the Power Apps application into the side panel there. And then once we have that, we need to add meeting stage option to the context here. Once we have that all set, then we're good to go, and we're going to be able to actually take this Power App and load it into the meeting. So you'll just give this a save, and you'll zip your files back up. And all the files are right here. If we take a look at, they're just a manifest file and then images for the color and the outline. So we're just going to take those, zip those back up into a new package so that we can go and add this into Teams now. So in Teams, all we would need to do is go into our Apps tab here in the left rail, and then we can go to Upload a Custom App. We have a few different options. Do you upload for my org if you're wanting everyone to be able to utilize this in their meetings? Point that to your zip file that you have, click open, and that will go install it. Now, I've already had this installed, and it's all ready to go. So if we want to use this now in a meeting, all we have to do is we'll go back here. So that's how I have it added. We're going to actually just go create a new meeting from scratch to start this out with. So I'm going to create a timesheet review meeting. I'm going to add in some attendees. I'm going to make David be part of this meeting. We're going to create it, and I'm going to open up the meeting. First thing I wanted to show is that meeting tab experience first before I show the new functionality. So those are the tabs we have across. If we wanted to have it as a meeting tab, all we have to do is click the plus button, and I can find my weekly timesheet, and we can click on that, and we can have it in a meeting tab so that we can use that and put in our time maybe before our meeting. So that is that functionality that's there. We don't have to do anything special to get this functionality working right now. We didn't even have to modify the manifest to get this. But what if we want to take it a step further? So there I'm interacting with the app here and be able to use that in the actual meeting itself. Well, what we can do is if we click out of this application, the tab, we can go back here, and then we can go into the meeting. So I'm going to join the meeting, like I'm just going to join it usually, and I'm going to wait for a few minutes here for David to get on too, just so we can see what the experience looks like as me being the host of the meeting and the one sharing the app, and as David being an attendee of the meeting. So David should join here in a second. There he is. So I want to add this as a meeting panel application. So I'm going to click the three dots, and we have that add an app option you see. So again, if you have the dev preview, this will show up. And then I can click on my weekly timesheet application that should show here since I just added it. And all I have to do is click save, and this is going to load that into the side panel. Now, you'll see right now this is a little not super intuitive to use because the side panel here for meetings is optimized for, I think, about 365 pixels wide type applications. And this is a desktop optimized app. So if you had a Power App that was optimized for mobile, this would look really nice in the panel. But this is why I want that share to main stage functionality to really be able to use this. So, while I can interact with it, it's not very usable. So how do I share it to the main stage? Well, at the top right up there, you'll see that little share tray. So we have the settings there. We can click that, and that will broadcast this application as soon as I click it into the main stage. And now we can start interacting with the Power App live in our Teams meeting. So this is what it looks like for me moving around, and David's able to see me moving around in the application and using it there. Now, what is it going to look like for David though? So I can see my timesheet, so I can go through the approval process, see what everyone submitted there. Now we'll switch over to David's profile as he's in the meeting. And I wanted to point this out for a reason, because if you're wanting to use this functionality, you'll notice that David's getting this big, this app isn't opening correctly error. So that's no good, right? Why is this? Well, if we want to share the Power Apps that we build this way, we have to make sure that we are sharing those out first with anyone that would be using it in the meeting. So I didn't do that for this application yet. So the attendees are getting an error. So how do we share this out? Well, before we want to sideload this into our Teams meeting, I want to go back into Power Apps and click the Share tab for the application that I want to broadcast. And I'm going to go add David. And you see when I did that, David got that message to log in with his credentials, and now he's able to use the app. And we see it's him because there's his picture, and then there's his name and the welcome. So now he can interact with the app on his own. there's no timesheets in there because he doesn't have any, and we can see approvals and all of that. So it's a fully fledged functioning experience here for everyone to be able to collaborate in an application inside of a Teams meeting with Power Apps. So I'm pretty excited about this functionality. It's pretty simple to get set up and start using, and it's really great for those collaborative meeting experiences and being able to use some of the Power Apps that you have. Cool. And yeah, and that's all that I had to show there. But yeah, I don't know if there's any questions in the chat or anything about this.
Wonderful. That was a very cool demo. Thanks. Some new functionality there. So David, you're up next. Do you want to just take over sharing?
Yes, absolutely. This is a little bit of a repeat from one a year ago, but it's important for new ones in the community to be able to understand the opportunities for extensibility that is available to them. So we wanted to share with the community. Enhanced styles for list formatting in lists web part. This is one by Hugo and myself. We contributed to this and built it together. And so I wanted to make sure he got the due credit that is deserved, meaning that he did most of the work and I'm just the voice. So there you go. Why and what is a enhanced styles web part? Well, it is an SPFX web part and it provides the opportunity to include enhanced CSS styles on a single page. So you may say, well, why not just use an SPFX extension, right? Well, an extension is going to affect every page in your site collection, whereas the web part is only going to affect the pages where the web part is added. That may seem simple, but it's important from a performance perspective. That is going to provide you better performance, going to allow the use of different enhancements to list formatting in different sections of a site. And you don't have to worry about connecting to a list to pull the data back for the enhancements that we're going to show you how to take advantage of today. So where and how can you use it? Well, as Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, this is a very powerful web part that is going to allow you to inject CSS onto a page, but that does not mean you want to use it for evil. You want to use it only on the HTML you own, which means the classes that you are creating within your list formatting definition. So be a superhero, not a supervillain. Only control the HTML that you know that you own. Obviously, from a dependency perspective, you are going to be relying on this web part to provide that extensibility. So it's important to know this is not an out-of-the-box feature. It is not something attached directly to the list formatting definition. It is an enhancement above and beyond the out-of-the-box experience. But once you're comfortable with that and you're able to utilize that, what are the opportunities that you can take advantage of? You can utilize pseudo classes and elements, so things like hover effects, and then you can include animations, so using keyframes and stuff like that. It's not something that is available as of yet to list formatting at the level that we're going to show you. But again, this is a lightweight extensibility that provides a lot of power to the awesomeness that you're going to see in a moment from Chris Kemp. So let's take a moment and look at a brief demo of what it is that you can take advantage of. So we're looking here at a list. Now, this is a simple list of community contributors. We've got some photographs, some titles, some information, pictures, etc. And of course, we know that we can apply things like list formatting to it at a view level. So if I come over and we look at a version of that we've used in the past, it shows all of the information that we saw on that list, but in a more graphical way, right? So we're taking the icons here and we're showing the different information like their LinkedIn, their favorite Marvel or DC, where they're located in Canada, their favorite season or sport, etc. But can we enhance this with additional hover effects and transform effects? Well, absolutely. So I'm going to go over to a page because remember, all of our list formatting definitions can be inherited within the list web part. So what I've done on this page is I've simply just dropped the list web part. So I edit that and we see if I edit that web part, we've got a list web part out of the box. This is all completely achievable by simply using the out of the box. But if you were to use the enhanced list formatting web part, as we can see available right here, when I add that, I've added it to my tenant. So we have the ability to take advantage of that. If I add that, we do get a little bit of that GPS warning, right? We need to be reminded that this is a very powerful and must be used for good web part. So if you misuse the web part, then you're going to experience things like loss of styles, broken styles. Why is SharePoint broken? Tears, nightmares, blue screens of death. Oh my, no one wants that. So make sure you use it and we hit accept. We're good to go. We want to be superheroes. You're given the opportunity to add custom styles. You can see it already shows up here in the right panel. If I click that, it will just, if that's closed and I click that, it'll bring it open. We can also expand it for a greater ability or more real estate on our screen if we want to do that. And then we can just add our CSS styles. So I've got a number of styles here that I'm going to simply add in off screen, and they're just nothing more than basic CSS. So you can see we did a really good hard work here in making sure that you're also getting that color coding and it's not just plain text you're seeing. So if I hit save and I close that, see what's happened now is it took the labels and just provided some transformation to some of the things that you're not able to achieve via inline styles. Very simple, certainly maybe a little archaic in its view, right? Looks a little vintage there, but it's just showing the ability of being able to use that transform and the ability to override those pseudo attributes. But wait, there's more. If we replace that, now we're going to get into a little bit of a hover effect, right? So now we've turned into a little more rounded corners, added some colors. And if I hover over it, now you can see there's a little bit of a glimmer that happens, right? So we see that animation, we're able to change the color of the primary text there. And we also add that little orange glimmer that goes across the screen and gives us a little nicer effect, draws the attention for the user, and it's driven by the user, right? We're not adding gratuitous animation here for the purposes of just annoying or trying to draw attention without the user having decided to see that interaction themselves. Let's jump to another version of a list formatting. So here we've got a Polaroid effect. A pretty cool effect. What you're seeing here is completely out of the box. This is using just a basic list formatting definition, some of our favorite people as well. And it's nice. It actually looks good. It's a good way to represent, right? It's kind of got that vintage look as well. But again, what if we wanted to take it to the next step? So we're going to edit this. We're going to add that web part onto the screen. I'm going to say I accept. Add custom styles, and I'm going to add some CSS here. And again, we're just getting into some basic hover effects, right? So we're looking at that pseudo attribute right there, something that we can't achieve using just the base list formatting definition on its own. What does that give us? Well, now when I hover over, see what happens is it brings a little more attention. Again, it's user driven, which is important, but it brings a little more attention to the actual card or Polaroid that we're hovering over. Of course, we can take it another step. So we'll change our custom styles here, select all, delete, come over. Now we see what's happened is we've got a little different, right? We're injecting a use of a custom font. We're very specific in our use case here, by the way. We're not looking to override areas that we don't own. We are adding it to the HTML that we do own in a very specific use case. And in this case, we're using it because remember when we use Polaroids, we'd write the name, maybe the location, the year, etc. So it adds a little more degree of reality to this particular experience. Now, you'll notice as well that it went black and white, right? So when I hover over it, well, now we're able to do that color contrast, right? So now we're bringing even more attention to the focus of the individual that we're hovering over. Again, a user action, a very definitive action by the user to ensure that we're only acting on what they are specifically hovering over. We're not randomly bringing them to the forefront, but it allows even more information to kind of be highlighted as we're going about navigating the screen. Now, lastly, the last demo I'll show you takes it one step further because I love this one. It's pretty cool. And again, everything you're seeing so far is nothing more than CSS, right? There's no JavaScript here. We're not injecting JavaScript. We're simply using plain CSS. So you'll notice now the heart has been added, right? We've got a little heart added there. And if I hover over it, we still get that effect where it brings it to the forefront, kind of squares it up. But when I hover over that heart, we get that little sprite, right? So we're using a GIF animation to be able to provide an extra layer of experience and interactivity. This could be a hyperlink that clicks back to some flow or something like that that actually favorites our users here, our community contributors, right? But it adds just a little extra experience to the user's interactivity, which is pretty pretty fantastic. And again, list formatting is getting better and better every day. Chris always shows amazing things, and I'm sure he's going to show another amazing thing here in a few moments. But this is one opportunity for you. Now, remember, points to keep in mind, it is one-to-one on the page, right? So where you drop the web part is where it's going to be used. If you're going to use this in other places, then yes, you're going to have to drop that web part, maybe copy the styles. It does allow you to ensure that they're scoped only to the page though, right? So you're not including a bunch of extra code or CSS or even just a call to another list where the CSS may live. It is specifically scoped and enhances that performance. So let's just go back to the slides briefly, and just for some additional links, we'll include these in the chat as well as my blog post. You can learn a little bit more about pseudo elements, classes, and animations at these web URLs. And the demo or the web part is also available at the PnP SPFX repository. So please don't hesitate to take advantage of it. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Other than that, Julie, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you. That was very cool. Neat way to see you get the CSS in the page, but I love your warning because don't manipulate the DOM. So
Exactly.
Warhorses Unite, Chris Kent. Let's see it.
All right, I'm Chris. All right, everybody. I'd like to remind you all that I may not have some fancy animations, but that's largely because with great power comes great responsibility, as Uncle Ben said. So very important to get that corrected. Now let's move on here. So let's take a look. Let's go to our Warrior Horses site. Here's Julie. I'm going to drag you over here. Bye. Okay. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about is some ways to get started here. Like, how do you dive in? How do you get going, right? Now, if you've got an existing list or, you've seen some samples, maybe you start there, and that's a great way to start. But some of the other ways you might want to start are taking a look at what Microsoft puts out there. So in this case, we're going to add a new list. And we're going to add one of these templates, right? So the warrior horses, they are expanding. They need more warriors. Some of them just keep dying. It's horrible. So they need a recruitment tracker. Now, if you pick these, you'll notice I've got a preview here, and you'll see there's actually quite a bit of formatting, right, that comes in here. Some of them may not be obvious to you that this is formatting, but because the choices just kind of happen automatically now, but this is all formatting. So let's start with this recruitment tracker. We're going to use this template. First thing I'll tell you is remove this space. Right, make it recruitment tracker so you don't get an ugly URL with that %20 in it. We're going to create that. And there we go. Now you can see our URL here is beautiful. It has no ugliness in it. And then we can just click this to add that space back in. Bam. All right, we'll give it a second. There we go. So there's a nice fun thing here. Now, the first thing we want to do is, so we've got this kind of list going, but we want to come over here and we want to remove a couple of columns that we don't need. For instance, horses do not use phones. You guys may not have known that. So nice thing about these templates is if you don't need it, get rid of it or add to it, right? No big deal. I'm going to remove both these phone screen columns. Just edit. I'm going to delete down here. Bye-bye. And of course, the horses actually have a rule that if you have a LinkedIn profile, you automatically don't get the job. So we're going to remove that one as well. All right. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, of course, our positions are going to be very different. So we're going to edit that. And so you see, by default, they've given kind of this list here. Now we want to change that to what makes sense for us, right? So we would hire some assassins, right? We could just type over there and hit enter to go to the next line. Maybe a battlefield engineer, right? And we'll add a mindless grunt. And of course, everyone needs customer support, so we'll keep that. But we don't need any account managers. We just X to delete that. Now we could set some colors here, right? So assassins will make those red, battlefield engineers orange, mindless grunts. You could have a nice blue. That looks lovely. Customer support, you get a green. Right, and we can move these around by just grabbing this little thing here, right? And drag them around, put them in the order we want them. So very cool, all of that. Now one of the things we can't do yet is edit that icon from here. But if we go ahead and just save our changes, let's add in some data. I'm not going to make you watch me type in all of our candidates here. So let's edit in grid view here. And I happen to have it on another screen, so let me just grab all of that and copy. One more down. Copy. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just paste. Oh, no! Does anyone else have this problem with a quick edit all the time? Come on. Come on. There we go. Okay. So now we'll paste all that in. So now we've got some data in there so we can start manipulating it, right? All right. Now that it's done saving, we'll exit this grid view. You'll see that it's got this stuff here. Now we mentioned this icon, right? What if we want to change those icons around? Because, check mark for mindless grunt. That makes 0 sense. Let's zoom this just a little bit so we can see that. All right, so we can go into settings. We can format this column. And you notice that it's already got kind of a design wizard set up here. So we can hit edit styles. And if we want to change that, we can just click here. We go more styles. And then we've got a bunch of options here. Now, if you don't want one of these icons, and I definitely don't for mindless grunt, right, you can use all sorts of icons, but you can't specify them here. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to format this column. Now that we've got it set up the way we want, we use the design wizard to get it pretty close to what we want. We go down to advanced mode, where we can see what Microsoft put together for us by using that little wizard. And this is, you know, lots of fun to look at, but let's make it a little bigger. We can hit Control F to just look for what we're looking for. We're going to look for icon. Oh, there it is, icon name. And so what we can do is we can just come over to, say, Flyken. So that's flyken.io. You head over there, and we're just going to look at like the stuff category, and we'll say, you know, a mindless grunt, right? You can have this defect solid, and we'll set this copy to get that name. And we'll go back here, and so we can see when position is mindless grunt, it's currently as the accept is the name of the icon. We'll put defect solid. All right, battlefield engineer. Well, you know, why don't we do a construction cone? That sounds exciting. So we'll come back here, but you can see the nice thing is I'm not really writing a format. I'm just editing one they put together for me. So an assassin, yeah, drop of blood. That makes sense. All right, we'll copy that, and we'll put that in for the assassin. And we'll keep the little mail icon for the customer support. Preview that. Looks great. Now we've got a nice icon. We didn't really have to do any real formatting, right? We just search for icon, and there we go. We've got it. Now, there are some cool things we can do here. Right, so let's save this off as a view for ourselves. So let's go ahead and save view as, and we'll just call this my interviews. All right, so I'm trying to track what interviews do I have coming up. So we'll hit save, and in order to do that, right, I might come over here and say, yeah, I only care about the ones where I'm one of the interviewers, right? So I don't care about little Sebastian or Sir Horsington III, right? So I can do this filter, and you got this nice little thing here, this dynamic at me. I click that, and so it's going to automatically say, whoever is looking at this view, only show the ones where they are inside this group, right? So that's really helpful. And in fact, I'm going to then sort by the interview date. All right, we'll go older to newer, so we can see what interviews are coming up. All right, and then we're going to save this view. Just hit save view as and save. So that's cool. But what if I want to, you know, have a dynamic filter, kind of like I do for interviewers on the interview date? So if I went to here, sadly, that is not here in this interface, so I have to go kind of old school here. I'm going to edit the current view. We'll see this old screen. I'm not going to really touch anything but down here to show items only the following is true. So this is what that did with that at me we saw. So now we're just going to say, and the interview date is greater than or equal to, all right, we can say today. But now we want not just today, we want like the past couple of days as well, right? So we're going to say, you know, today -2. That sounds good. All right, so then we just hit OK. That'll save. And now we've got a nice view, all right, that's customized for that. And one of the cool things is I can make this a gallery. All right, so I pop it over to a gallery. Ooh, fancy. And now I can save this view again. You'll notice got a little star there. And I save it again to say that when you go to this view, it should be the gallery by default. So I'm going to do that. And now, what if I want to change this around? Right, so I can go get some samples. I can jump in there and start editing that. Or I can say format current view, and you'll see I've got this nice card designer. Let's start with that. So we start with the card designer. The recruiter is always the same guy. We don't want to show that. All right, we'll show the candidate name, the position, show progress. We don't really care when they applied. All right, we'll show all those interviews, and we'll make sure we show with that nice face in it. So that's pretty cool. All right, we can even drag things around. So say we care more about progress, right? We'll drag that up there and so on. So I've got that kind of where I want it. I can choose to show the column names or not. I'm going to leave them in. I'm going to hit save. Looking good, but now I want to change it even more, right? So I got it pretty close to where I wanted without having to do a lot of work using their wizard here. But I can jump into advanced mode at any time. And again, I've got this giant thing they put together. This is a great place. So whether it's the gallery or it's these other formats they kind of put together for you, this is a great place to learn what is available to you. Oftentimes things that aren't necessarily even documented yet will be in here. You might see things like these extra classes. So you'll see one of the things that happens is when you click on one of these, anywhere you click, it opens up the item. And they are accomplishing that. They've got this button elements, the very first child element, and they're just using this class SP card default click button. And then we've got the row action. What this does is actually positions a button over the whole thing. So you don't have to do that yourself. You can use this exact same piece here. And you can have that, you can do default click, you can do share, launch a flow, whatever you want. All right, so that's pretty neat. But you can also see really cool things like how they're using the colors and so on. And they've got all sorts of things for how the columns are laid out. You've got nice things to learn about the metadata. For instance, so we can see candidate name is really just the title field that they've changed the display name on. And we can see that here. So no matter what you change that display name, by using this little exclamation point here, we're pulling out the metadata from that column so we can access things like the display name. That's really cool. Now, in this one particular case, yeah, we don't care. We don't want to show that here. All right, so we're going to kill that. All right, we just kill that whole thing, preview it. Hey, that's cool. All right, and we come in here and we can see a couple of things like this SP card highlighted content. Like that's what's making it slightly bigger and bold. We're just going to get rid of that. But we don't need that. And we're going to add some styles ourselves, right? And we're going to say make the font size 18 pixels. And we'll add a comma there, and we'll add our font weight, right? And we'll put that at, say, 600. Sounds very exciting. Let's see. Ooh, so pretty. But the idea is we can start to customize it. So we kept all the labels for everything else, but we got rid of it for the top. All right, we can also see interesting things like this, right? Why is this underlined, right? So they've got a P tag, they've got a paragraph element, and they're saying that's not allowed. This is an example of where checking out some of these things they generate can clue you into things that aren't yet documented yet, aren't necessarily part of the schema. But it also can be helpful to take a look at the schema. So if you've ever wondered what the heck this stupid thing is, it's what defines what's allowed here, right? And it's not stupid, so sorry. All right, we'll just open up a new window. I'm going to open that up. We'll go into the schema. And it's cool. So you can actually see what's in here. So this is for the tile view. The main thing we care about, though, is that formatter. You can just click this link. It'll take you right in. So you can see things like, oh, I can open context menu. That's cool. Right, here's all the different things I could do with that button, or here's all the operators, right? So all the different expressions. And of course, you can check out the documentation, but sometimes this is a much easier way to check these things out. You'll notice that the P tag is missing from the elements. That's the reason for that error, and so on. You can see all sorts of really interesting things by checking out the schema. So I encourage you to check that out sometime. Let's head back in here. We'll look at a couple more items here. And so let's go on down. So we're going to take a look at this interviewers, right? So we already know this view is already filtered to where I am one of the interviewers. I don't really need to see my own face every time, right? So I can come down here again. I can do a quick find for interviewers, right? There they are. So this is where they're displaying, right? And instead of saying the display name in this case, what if I want to put other interviewers, right? Because I don't care about seeing my own self there. So now I've changed the label. And you can see here, we've got this whole section. And the nice thing is you can expand and collapse that, right? So if I just wanted to remove all of it, I could just do that and get rid of it. But in this case, they're going through, they're doing some really fancy stuff. So you're looking for some advanced ways to display this stuff. Check out this little section on how they're handling these people with these previews. It's very neat. But we can edit some of that ourselves, right? So let's pull ourselves out. So we're going to say, if the length is equal to 1, then just play a line because, hey, that makes sense, right? Because we're always going to have at least 1. We know ourselves are going to be in there. And the other thing we can do then is we come down here to this main display of this object. Right? And they're saying, hey, if it's over 5, don't display them. Well, we can do that exact same thing, except we can also put an or. Like, hey, if it's over 5, or we say the person iterator.email equals @me. Then don't show it. All right? Oh, we got to put that in the right spot. Whoopsie. All right. Ignore that. We'll put it up here in the actual condition. That's kind of important. There we go. And we'll preview that. There we go. So sort of removing a little bit here. We got some weirdness with the name, but the idea here is you can pull yourselves out. All right. So now we're just editing this. We're starting there. That's really cool. And we got one more thing we're going to do here. And that's this interview date, right? That's cool. It's got this nice display value. If you haven't seen that yet, we'll just scroll up here to where we got the interview date, right? If you use that display value, that's when instead of getting the exact date value, you get this nice friendly looking, right? So 4 days from now, yesterday, tomorrow, all that kind of stuff. What if we wanted to add a little bit to this? So let's say we want to take this and we want to add a little icon when it's coming up, right? Like when I need to start preparing, things I really kind of care about. So one of the things we can do is we can add this lovely thing here where we're going to go in and we're going to say, instead of text content here, we're going to break this up into children. All right, so we're going to children. And here, so children, so you can either have text content or you can have children. That's where we say Elm type. We'll make this a P as well, if that's fun. All right, and we'll just take our text content, which we'll just grab like this, and we'll actually just drag it down. Boom. So that's nice. Now we have our text content as a child element instead of being actual part of the main element, and that allows us to put like another element in here. It's this case, we're going to add a span, right? So actually, let's make this one a span too, just for fun. Say Elm type of span. Woo. And in this case, we're going to put an icon, right? So we can just grab some attributes. I'm just going to grab those and stick them in there so you can not watch me type. I can always right click and format the document. Ooh, fancy. All right, so now I've got an icon. If we preview that, now I've got this little icon showing up here right next to our text. We didn't change anything else. So let's add some styles to that. You know, make that look a little better. We're going to add style. Ooh. And we'll just add like a vertical line, some padding, and all those fun things. There we go. Beautiful. Again, I'm going to format that document just because I like it there. So now that looks good, but again, I want to conditionally display that. So traditionally, we would write something like display, and you write an if statement, right? So you hit equals, and you put if. We're going to say like the display value is nothing, that we want to do nothing, right? We don't want to show it. So if the interview date display value equals nothing, then we'll say none. Otherwise, let's do inline, right? So that's one way to do it. So now we can make sure we're only showing this if it actually has a date. But what if we want to show it based on time? Well, normally we would do that by adding another condition here. We're going to look at now. So there's an at now. We're going to look at that compared to the interview date. And so you might write like number around interview date, and then we're going to say, you know, minus 1,000 for milliseconds times 60 for seconds times 60 for minutes times 24 for, I don't know, hours, and times 7 for our days, right? And we're going to do all of that, and we're going to write it out like that to make it obvious we're trying to say 7 days, because the giant number is not going to make a lot of sense to us. We're going to say greater than or equal to now. So this is kind of a complex way to do that, and you got to write the syntax correctly. There we go. And preview that. And do we have any that don't have a date? I forgot to test it correctly. Sorry, I'm making myself laugh. Okay, but the idea here is you could do this. There's an easier way to do this now, and that's really what I want to show you. And that's that we can replace all of this with a nice new operator called add days. So we just put in our whatever date we want to add to. So in this case, we're going to say interview date. And we're going to say the number of days we want to add. In this case, we're going to say -7. We want to look 7 days in the past. And then we can preview that. All right, so I won't have messed up the... but the idea is if you want to say within 7 days, you want to say within 5 days, and so on, and you start seeing those show up like that. Okay? All right, so add days is really helpful. And let's wrap up real quick. Okay, so the idea is to start, use the templates, use the designers, start with the samples, right? Really dive in. That's the best way to learn this stuff. And you're going to change them, you're going to break them, you're going to send them, you're going to mash them all up. That is the absolute best way to learn this stuff, learn what's available. And it's a lot easier than trying to just, you know, start with empty JSON blinking cursor at your screen at you. Okay. And then there's a couple of easier date math expressions that were just added, and that's this add days and add minutes. So you just put in a date, and it will bring back the date with the appropriate amount of days or minutes added or subtracted. So to subtract, just put a negative number in there. Okay. And finally, you can always check out the documentation or the samples. And there's all these videos and various demos and everything is all a nice playlist there for you as well. All right, and that's all I got for you.
That was awesome. Thank you, Chris. All right, let me just quickly share our last screen. And so just letting everyone know that the recording will be available in 24 hours at the aka.ms M365 PnP videos. You can subscribe to that so you'll get notified. And our next general call will be on August 19th. So definitely join us then. And I want to thank everybody for attending. It was a great call. And just to share out another last slide here on some other calls that are happening. So want to share that out. And that is all we have today. Thanks everyone for joining. Really great.